She told me I was the love of her life while planning her wedding with someone else. We met at a bookstore. That sounds cliche, I know, but it was the kind of quiet, poetic moment you don't realize will define your life until much later. I was reaching for a copy of Norwegian Wood when she stepped beside me, aiming for the exact same one. Our fingers touched the spine at the same time. She laughed first. I just stared. Her name was Clara. She had this warm chestnut hair and a kind of sadness in her eyes that made you want to protect her, even if you didn't know why. We stood there for 20 minutes talking about Murakami, favorite novels, and the absurdity of how hard it was to find good coffee in that part of the city. She left with my number saved under bookstore guy, and 2 days later, we had our first date at a local rooftop cafe. It started slow. She told me she wasn't looking for anything serious. She'd just gotten out of something messy, but there was something in the way she looked at me that made it feel like she was hoping I'd stick around. I did. The relationship unfolded like a slow-burning novel, pages turning one by one. We'd talk about everything. Her dreams of becoming a writer, her fear of commitment, my childhood in a quiet town, my need to make things last. Clara wasn't perfect. She was guarded, a little evasive about her family, always changing the subject when I asked about her past relationships. But when she was with me, it felt like I was the only man in the world. She'd say things like, "I've never felt this safe before," or "I don't believe in soulmates, but if I did," and leave the sentence hanging as she kissed me. She never wanted to post pictures of us online. She said it was because her last relationship was a social media disaster, that people pried too much. I understood. I'm not the kind of guy who needs validation from likes or shares. I just wanted her to be real. And she was, or so I thought. After about 9 months, I told her I loved her. We were sitting in my apartment wrapped in a blanket, watching the snow fall outside the window. She didn't say it back right away. She just looked at me, that familiar sadness flickering in her expression, and said, "You don't know how much that means to me." A few hours later, as we were falling asleep, she whispered it. "I love you too. You're everything I've ever wanted, but I'm so scared I'll ruin it." It wasn't perfect. She was distant sometimes. There were weekends she said she needed to go visit her aunt, but never wanted me to come. She never introduced me to her parents. Claimed they were ultra-conservative and wouldn't understand. I believed her. I had no reason not to. Clara was affectionate, present, and so convincing. On our 1-year anniversary, she gave me a small, leather-bound notebook. Inside, on the first page, she'd written, "For all the chapters we haven't lived yet." I remember holding that book and thinking, this is it. She's the one. Things shifted a little after that, subtly. Texts took longer to come. Calls would go to voicemail. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd say she was just overwhelmed with work, tired, stressed. I tried to give her space without letting go. That's the balance you try to keep when you love someone who's scared. You want to be close, but not suffocate them. Then, one night, she came over in tears, said her job was falling apart, that she'd fought with her mom, that she felt like the world was crumbling. I held her for hours. She looked up at me and said, "You're the only person who makes me feel like I'm not broken." I didn't know it then. But while I was holding her like she was my world, she was texting someone else from the bathroom. I'd find that out much later. The first real crack appeared on a rainy Saturday. Clara had forgotten her scarf at my place the night before, so I decided to surprise her. I drove to her apartment, coffee and scarf in hand. But when I got there, the front door was ajar. I knocked, waited. No answer. I stepped inside, calling her name. No one was home. But on the kitchen counter was a cream-colored envelope, delicately embossed. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But her name was on it, in elegant calligraphy. Curious, I flipped it open. Inside was a wedding invitation. At first, I was confused. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was for a cousin or a friend. But then I saw the name, Clara May Davenport and Trevor Elliott Marks. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out the thunder outside. I read it again and again. The date was only 2 months away. When she came home later that evening, soaked from the rain, she saw me sitting on her couch, the invitation in my hand. Her face went pale. "What is this?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, just stared at me like a deer caught in headlights. Then she laughed, shakily, and said, "Oh my God, I can explain. That's for my cousin. She has the same name. Isn't that funny?" I wanted to believe her. Everything in me wanted that to be true, so I nodded. I didn't press. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. She walked over, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "I'd never lie to you." But the seed had been planted, and no matter how much I tried to drown it, doubt started to grow. After that night, something in me changed. Not all at once, but like a small crack forming in glass. barely visible at first, then slowly spreading until the whole thing is about to shatter. I couldn't stop thinking about that invitation. Her name, his name, the elegant gold foil lettering. Clara had always been secretive, but now every word felt like it carried weight. Every smile seemed a little too forced. Every kiss, like a cover. Still, I tried to push the doubt aside. That's what love does to you. It makes you bend and stretch until you barely recognize your own shape. I started noticing little things. Her phone was always on silent. She'd leave the room to take calls. When I asked who it was, she'd just say work or mom and change the subject. One night, she left her phone on my nightstand when she went to take a shower. It lit up with a message from someone saved as E. The preview read, "Still can't believe you said yes." Counting down the days, my blood ran cold. I didn't open the message. I just stared at it until the screen dimmed. When she came out of the bathroom, towel around her hair, she saw me looking at the phone. She smiled, walked over, picked it up, and turned it off. No explanation. Just slid it into her bag and curled up beside me like nothing had happened. The next day, I confided in my best friend Kelly. She was blunt, as always. "You know she's lying, right?" I wanted to snap at her, defend Clara, but I didn't. I just sat there in silence, staring into my coffee. A week later, Kelly sent me a link. A public Instagram post. From someone I didn't know. It was from a private engagement party. One of those fancy champagne and string quartet affairs. In the center of the photo was Clara, my Clara, wearing a white dress, smiling brighter than I'd ever seen her, standing beside a tall, clean-cut man in a navy suit. His hand rested gently on her waist. The caption read, "So happy for Trevor and Clara. Can't wait for the big day." I clicked through the account. Dozens of photos. Clara and Trevor on a boat. Clara and Trevor at a vineyard. Clara and Trevor holding a sign that said, "She said yes." The latest post was just a few days old. I felt sick. I actually ran to the bathroom and threw up. Everything I knew about her, everything I trusted, collapsed in a matter of seconds. Kelly begged me to confront her, but I wasn't ready. I needed proof. I needed to understand how someone could tell you they loved you while planning a wedding with someone else. I created a fake Instagram account. Generic name, travel photos, enough followers to look real. I followed Trevor. He accepted the request. Within hours, I was looking through his stories, watching videos of them tasting wedding cakes, touring venues, dancing in a kitchen together. And then, in one of the highlights, a clip of Clara holding a calendar, pointing to a date and laughing, saying, "I just want to skip to this day already." I paused the video. The date was only 6 weeks away. That night, I sat across from her at dinner. She was glowing, animated, talking about some podcast she'd started listening to. I couldn't focus on a word. I was watching her lips move, thinking about how those same lips kissed me while promising forever, only to turn around and promise it again to someone else. After dessert, I asked her a question. "Clara, are you happy?" She blinked. "What do you mean? Just, are you happy with me?" She smiled. That soft, nostalgic smile she used to give me in the early days. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." "Why would you ask that?" "No reason," I lied. "I didn't sleep that night." A few days later, I sent Trevor a message from the fake account. Nothing aggressive. Just, "Hey man, random question. Are you still getting married to Clara next month?" Asking for a weird reason, lol. He replied, "Yeah, haha. Why?" I didn't respond. But now I knew it for sure. No more denial. No more benefit of the doubt. I called Clara the next morning and told her to come over. She arrived looking nervous, said she had a lot going on and didn't want to talk about heavy stuff. But I insisted. I showed her the Instagram post, the one from the engagement party. She stared at it. Her eyes flickered. She didn't try to deny it. Didn't even gasp. Just closed her eyes for a long second, then whispered, "I was going to tell you." "When?" I asked. "After the honeymoon?" She sat down on the edge of the couch. "It wasn't supposed to get this far. You were never part of the plan. But I met you, and I fell in love. Real love. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was watching someone else speak. Her words were muffled by the sound of my own pulse pounding in my ears. "You said I was the love of your life." "You are," she said quickly. "You are. But Trevor is... he's safe. He's what my parents wanted." It got complicated. "So you thought juggling 2 men and planning a wedding was the solution?" I thought I'd end it. I kept trying to find the right time, but every time I saw you, I just... She broke off. "You made it hard to walk away?" I stared at her. The woman I had built a future around. And for the first time, I didn't see softness in her eyes. I saw calculation. "So what now?" I asked. "I'll call it off," she said, panicking. "I will. I swear. Just give me a week. Please. I'll fix it." But I didn't believe her. Not anymore. She left in tears. I locked the door behind her and stood in the silence. Then I called Kelly. "We're going to that wedding," I said. "But not as guests." I don't think I slept more than 2 hours a night after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in that white dress, laughing beside him, holding a glass of champagne like nothing in her life was built on lies. The idea of revenge wasn't some dramatic impulse. It was survival. I needed her to feel even a fraction of what she'd done to me. Kelly was more than willing to help. She had always been protective of me, maybe even more than I realized. When I told her the plan, she didn't even flinch. "Whatever you need," she said. "Let's burn the whole thing down." We started small. She helped me get hired through a catering company that was working the wedding. Apparently, the father of the groom had spared no expense. Outdoor garden venue, seated dinner, a live quartet. That worked in our favor. Big events meant big staff. And if you had the right uniform and kept your head down, no one would question you. Meanwhile, Clara kept texting. "Clara, please say something." "Clara, I haven't told him yet. It's complicated. But I will." "Clara, don't do anything stupid. I love you." "I still do." Love. The word didn't even feel real anymore. It felt like a weapon, like something she pulled out when she needed control. I didn't answer. I couldn't. If I talked to her, I'd lose focus. The venue was a historic mansion outside the city. I drove up the long, winding driveway in a rented van with the catering crew 2 days before the wedding. As we unloaded boxes of wine glasses and floral centerpieces, I caught sight of her through one of the windows. She was laughing with a woman I assumed was her wedding planner. She looked radiant, and I hated her for it. The day before the wedding, I spotted Trevor helping set up the guest seating. He was exactly what you'd expect from a man with a trust fund and a polished family name. Tall, clean-cut, charming. He joked with the staff, tipped the florists in advance, and offered to help carry trays inside. I hated that I didn't hate him more. In some alternate life, I probably could have been friends with the guy. But in this one, I was the man his fiancée had been sleeping with for 2 years. The wedding day arrived bright and cloudless. A perfect Saturday. I showed up in black dress pants, a white shirt, and the catering company's signature navy apron. No one questioned me. There were dozens of servers, bartenders, runners. Just another nameless face in the machine. I kept my head down, waited, watched. Guests started arriving around 4. Clara appeared around 5, descending the grand staircase in a silk robe, surrounded by bridesmaids. Her hair was curled to perfection. She looked like a dream. Only this time, I wasn't dreaming. I was waking up. I waited until after the vows. I needed everyone to see it. To hear the words. Trevor stood at the altar, his hands trembling slightly as he said, "I promise to love you, to protect you, to never lie to you." Clara smiled. "I promise to be yours, only yours." That was my cue. I slipped away from the main hall and into the coat room, where I'd stashed a small tablet inside my duffel. I had screenshots of everything. The texts, the photos, even a voice memo she once sent me, moaning my name just 2 weeks prior. I found Trevor right after their first dance. He was standing off to the side, fixing his cufflinks. I approached slowly, careful not to draw attention. "Excuse me, sir," I said, holding a glass of champagne. "Someone asked me to give this to you." He took it politely, smiling. "Thanks." I handed him the tablet next. "Also this." He looked confused. "What's this?" "Proof," I said, and walked away. I didn't stay to watch the moment he pressed play. I didn't need to. Minutes later, the music stopped. A crash echoed across the reception hall. Someone had dropped a tray, or maybe thrown it. A few guests gasped. Then a voice, Trevor's, boomed across the courtyard. "How long?" Silence. And then, chaos. I turned in time to see Clara's face twist in horror. Her hand went to her mouth. Trevor was holding the tablet high like a trophy, shouting, "This is who you really are? You've been screwing someone else behind my back for 2 years?" Guests were frozen. Someone dropped a wine glass. Clara stammered something, reached for him, but he pulled back. "You don't get to touch me," he spat. "You don't get to lie to me and then marry me in front of all these people like nothing happened." I saw her eyes scan the crowd. She was searching for me. And when she spotted me, standing still in the corner, her face went pale. "No," she whispered. But it was already too late. Trevor turned to his parents. "We're done. I want her out of my life. And I want the ring back." Clara collapsed to her knees, sobbing, mascara streaming down her cheeks. I walked out before the security got involved. Kelly was waiting by the van, arms crossed, grinning like the villain in a movie. "Well?" she asked. "Done," I said. "It's over." She didn't speak, just opened the passenger door and got in. I climbed behind the wheel. Neither of us said much on the way home. There was nothing left to say. That night, I slept, like a man who had finally exhaled after drowning for months. The silence after destruction is always strange. You expect relief or maybe guilt. But what I felt was emptiness. Clara didn't text me that night. Not the next morning either. But on the second day, my phone buzzed. Clara, how could you do this to me? Clara, you humiliated me in front of everyone I know. Clara, I thought you loved me. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. Not from regret, but from the sheer audacity of her words. How could I do this to her? I didn't reply. I didn't owe her anything anymore. But the texts kept coming. Clara, Trevor won't speak to me. His parents canceled the honeymoon. Everything is gone, Clara. Do you even care that I was going to leave him for you? Clara. I was scared, that's all. Scared to choose love over security. But I chose wrong. I know that now. I muted the conversation. Kelly told me I should block her. I didn't. Maybe I wanted to see how far she'd spiral. Maybe a part of me still wanted closure. Or maybe I just needed to know that I'd mattered to her at all. A week after the wedding, she showed up at my apartment. No warning, no call. Just stood there on my doorstep, makeup free, hair tied in a messy knot, wearing one of my old sweatshirts. I didn't invite her in. She looked at me like I was the air she hadn't been breathing. Please, she said. Just 5 minutes. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. I'm not here to defend myself, she began. I know what I did. I destroyed everything. But I need you to know, I loved you. I still do. I didn't say a word. She stepped closer. When I met you, I was already engaged. Arranged. Pressured. It wasn't love. It was expectation. And then you came into my life and I felt something real. Something terrifying. And I didn't know how to let go of either world. You didn't let go, I said flatly. You played both. I know, she whispered. And I hate myself for it. She pulled something from her pocket. It was the leather notebook she'd given me on our anniversary. I kept it, she said. I've been writing in it every day since the night you exposed me. I don't know why. Maybe to punish myself. She handed it to me. I didn't take it. You don't get to come back here and rewrite history, Clara, I said. You lied. You promised me forever while ordering floral arrangements with another man. Tears welled up in her eyes. I was going to leave him. I just didn't know how. I was weak. No, I said. You were selfish, she nodded. You're right. For a second, she looked so small, so broken, and I hated how my chest still ached for her. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I just needed to tell you that I never faked what I felt for you. Not once. I looked her dead in the eye. It doesn't matter anymore. She bit her lip, nodded slowly, and turned to walk away. I watched her go. Every step felt like an echo of the life we could have had. When she disappeared around the corner, I finally went inside. The apartment was still full of things that reminded me of her. A half-burned candle, a photo frame now face down on the shelf, the scarf she always wore when she was cold. That night, I packed everything into a box and left it by the door. I opened the notebook. Just one page. Her handwriting. I chose a cage over a key. And now I live in it alone. I closed it and tossed it in the trash. A month passed. Then 2. Slowly the weight lifted. I focused on work. Took a road trip. Reconnected with old friends. Even started laughing again. Clara stopped reaching out after that last visit. Maybe she finally understood. Or maybe she'd just found another cage. I moved out of that apartment 3 months later. Got a new place downtown. Cleaner. Brighter. A fresh start. Kelly helped me paint the walls one weekend. You okay? She asked, hair speckled with white paint. Yeah, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. She smiled. You know, not everyone would have handled it the way you did. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Thanks for being on my side, I said. Always, she replied. There was something in her voice I hadn't noticed before. Warmth. Safety. The kind of presence that doesn't need dramatic vows or grand gestures. Just honesty. And that night, when she fell asleep on my couch, I looked at her and thought, maybe love isn't about fireworks. Maybe it's about peace. Maybe I didn't need someone to promise me forever. Just someone who wouldn't lie when they said, I'm here. Fall crept in slowly. The leaves outside my new apartment turned to copper and gold, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was walking through a storm. I had built something new. Quiet mornings with coffee on the balcony, late nights designing logos for clients I actually liked, and an inbox that didn't buzz with ghosted promises or passive-aggressive apologies. Clara was gone. Kelly and I never talked about her much after that. It was like a mutual unspoken rule, an agreement to bury that chapter without digging it back up. But every now and then, I'd catch Kelly looking at me with a softness I hadn't seen before, like she was checking for cracks that hadn't fully healed yet. We got closer. I don't even know how it started. Maybe it was the night I helped her move her broken coffee table out to the curb, and we ended up sitting on the steps eating takeout and talking about our worst dates. Or the time she came over to borrow my Wi-Fi during a blackout, and we fell asleep on the floor, wrapped in the same blanket. There was no pressure, no games, just comfort. Then, one night, I kissed her. It wasn't fireworks. It was warmth. Familiar. Like home. She didn't pull away. We didn't label anything right away. We didn't need to. It was slow, safe, real. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. But Clara wasn't done. She resurfaced exactly 5 months after the wedding that never happened. It started with an email. Subject line. Can we talk? I hovered over it for a while before opening it. Hey, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, and I wouldn't be writing this if it wasn't important. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking for anything, actually. I need you to know the full truth. I've been in therapy. I'm trying to be honest, with myself and with you. If you'll let me explain, even just once, I'll never bother you again if you don't want me to. Please. 1 coffee. 1 hour. You pick the place. Clara, I stared at the screen for a long time. Kelly was beside me, working on her laptop. You okay? She asked. I didn't lie. It's Clara. She paused. What does she want? To talk. Kelly didn't say anything at first. Then, carefully, do you want to? That question hung in the air. I didn't want to, but a part of me needed to. Not because I missed her. I didn't. But because some ghosts only stay buried if you see them for what they really are. So I met her. A small cafe on the edge of the park. I got there early. She arrived 5 minutes late. She looked different. Older somehow. Tired. Not in a physical way, but in the way people carry shame when they know they've broken something they can't fix. She sat down without a word. We didn't talk for the first minute. Just awkward silence and 2 coffees we didn't touch. Finally, she spoke. I'm not going to ask how you're doing. I know you're better without me. I didn't confirm or deny it. She took a breath. I wanted to tell you something that I never admitted. Not to you, not even to myself. I was never scared of choosing you. I was scared of losing the version of me I had to pretend to be for everyone else. I frowned. What does that even mean? It means, with you, I couldn't fake it. You saw all of me, and that terrified me. With Trevor, I could hide behind the perfect girl act. His family wanted polite smiles and event planning. But you saw the mess, the contradictions, and I thought if you saw too much, you'd leave. So I split myself. 2 lives. 2 versions of love. None of it was love, I said quietly. She blinked fast. I thought it was. At least with you. But I didn't deserve you. No, I agreed. You didn't. A long silence. She nodded slowly. He's engaged again. To someone new. Good, I said. She gave a bitter laugh. I wish I hated you. It'd be easier. But I don't. I still think about you every day. I stared at her. The woman I once thought would be my forever. Now just a stranger with old memories in her voice. I have someone now, I said. And I don't have to wonder if she means what she says. I don't have to read between the lines or decode silence. Clara looked down. Is it Kelly? I didn't answer. She already knew. She always hated me, she whispered. No, I said. She just saw through you before I could. Clara nodded again, wiped a tear. I'm sorry. I know, I said. And I meant it. We didn't hug. We didn't make promises. She just stood, said goodbye, and walked out of the cafe. I never saw her again. And the next morning, I deleted her number for the last time. Life didn't change in some cinematic rush after Clara left for good. There were no slow-motion sequences, no fireworks, no triumphant music playing as I declared a new beginning. It was quieter than that. Subtle, peaceful in the way that only comes when the noise finally stops. Kelly became my person, fully, quietly, and without needing to say it aloud. There was no defining moment when things shifted between us. We just sort of found ourselves building something that actually made sense. She never asked for grand gestures. She didn't need promises carved into stone. She just showed up day after day with patience, wit, and a kind of honesty that never demanded anything in return. It was the kind of love that made you feel whole without needing to be rescued. I remember one morning, several months after the Clara conversation, waking up to the smell of pancakes. Kelly had music playing softly in the kitchen, some old indie playlist we used to mock back in college. And she was dancing around in one of my oversized hoodies, barefoot, singing off-key, laughing when she caught me watching her. And I realized in that moment, I didn't miss the passion that burns too fast. I didn't miss the drama, the mystery, or the doubt. I missed nothing. Because I had everything. She looked at me and tilted her head. You're smiling weird. What's in that head of yours? I shrugged. You. She rolled her eyes and threw a pancake at me. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. Weeks later, I found the old leather-bound notebook Clara gave me. I had thought I tossed it, but apparently I couldn't bring myself to let go just yet. It was at the bottom of an old moving box, buried under tax papers and loose wires. I sat down and flipped through it. Her writing filled most of the pages now. Painful, chaotic, messy. The words of someone clawing at a wall she built herself. She talked about regret, about choosing fear over love, about how she'd spent years convincing herself she could have both control and intimacy, and ended up with neither. One line stood out, scrawled across the middle of a page in shaky ink. You were the only real thing I ever had, and I broke it to keep a version of myself I didn't even like. I closed the notebook, and finally, this time, I did toss it in the trash. Not out of anger, just peace. Letting go wasn't about forgetting what happened. It was about releasing the grip it had on me. I had spent so long trying to figure out if I wasn't enough, if I missed something, if I did something wrong. But the truth is, sometimes people hurt you not because of who you are, but because of who they aren't ready to be. Clara wasn't ready to be loved honestly, and I wasn't ready to be lied to again. The next few months passed in a blur of quiet joy. Work was good. My sleep came easier. Kelly and I traveled together, nothing extravagant. Just small trips to nearby cities, lakes, mountains. But every memory we made felt cleaner, lighter, like it belonged fully to the moment we were in. She had a way of making the world feel new again. One evening, we sat watching the sunset from our balcony, wine in hand, legs tangled under a shared blanket. Kelly turned to me. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever miss her? I didn't flinch. I miss who I thought she was. But that person never really existed. She nodded, her eyes studying mine. Do you regret it? I thought for a moment. Because if that hadn't happened, I don't think I'd be here. With you. She smiled softly. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. And I believed her. Not because she promised, but because she never lied. A year later, on a quiet morning wrapped in fog and light rain, I proposed to Kelly. No big crowd, no fireworks, just us. 2 mugs of coffee, a blanket around our shoulders, a question asked with shaking hands. She said yes before I even finished the sentence. And as I slipped the ring onto her finger, I thought about all the moments that led here. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the confusion, the silence. And then I looked into her eyes and realized something that stopped me cold. I didn't need to be anyone's love of their life, if it only meant words without weight. I just needed someone who chose me, consistently, quietly, honestly. Clara had once told me I was her everything. She said it like it was sacred. But in the end, it meant nothing. Kelly never said those exact words. She didn't need to. She just proved it. Every single day. And that's the kind of love I'd been searching for all along.